Tim Walz is about as normal a character type as you are likely to come across anywhere in American politics. I mean, he is the avuncular guy next door who can help fix your car. He's a football coach. He ice fishes. He was a very senior enlisted guy in the United States Army and National Guard. He was a command sergeant major. I mean, he checks a lot of boxes. And of course, he's from the dead center middle of the country. He also is being characterized, I think, incorrectly as being a progressive because a lot of folks on the left were pushing for him. But in fact, if you look at his record, he's really a moderate. He was in Congress, and he is as governor, and I think he's a perfect balance to the ticket for Kamala Harris.
Well, if his record is indeed more middle of the road, Matt, it certainly isn't being characterized that way today by the opposition, already calling him a radical liberal, dangerously liberal, perhaps describing him as leftist, kind of a hard word to say. But if that already is out there percolating, how hard is it going to be for the now Harris-Walz campaign to fight back against that?
I mean, they're going to have to do it a little, but remember, they would call anybody. If she had picked Joe Manchin, he would have been a radical, leftist, communist, socialist nutcase. I mean, that's what they do. But Tim Walz is none of those things. I mean, he wanted, back in 2011, when he was in Congress, he voted for $4 trillion of deficit reduction. He was part of the pay-as-you-go caucus. He's very focused on kind of deficit and deficit reduction. He had an A+ rating from the NRA when he was in Congress. This is nobody's idea of a left-wing radical. And keep in mind, of course, that while there was a lot of focus on Walz and what he's done leading up to this and today and maybe tomorrow, after that, it's all about Kamala Harris and Donald Trump. It's the top of the ticket that people make their minds on. And so I think Walz will be a very good partner to her and will be a great surrogate for her. But ultimately, it's up to Harris to beat Trump.
Matt, what do you think of this anti-Semitic line that we're getting from the Trump campaign in Kamala Harris not choosing Josh Shapiro, the governor of Pennsylvania? J.D. Vance was on the Hugh Hewitt program, said, quote, "If it's not Josh Shapiro, I agree with you." This is something that Hewitt posed to him. "I think they will have not picked Shapiro, frankly, out of anti-Semitism for their own caucus and their own party," referring to the fact that Shapiro is Jewish and has a bit of a harder line, as we've learned, when it comes to Israel policy. If this is something that we're going to be hearing in this campaign, how does she answer it?
Well, let's be clear. That is another example of J.D. Vance being awful. He has completely abandoned all principle that apparently he once had, according to his friends from law school, and now has none. That is an appalling lie. Kamala Harris is married to a Jewish man. As a Jewish person myself, I will completely reject the proposition that just because she didn't pick a Jewish guy doesn't mean she's an anti-Semite. It had absolutely, positively nothing whatsoever to do with that. And in fact, if you want to look for anti-Semitism in this race, look no further than Donald Trump, who said that there were very fine people on both sides when a bunch of Nazis chanting "Jews will not replace us" marched in Charlottesville while he was president. So that is a ridiculous thing for Vance to have said.
Yeah, it does make you wonder if everyone is familiar with the second gentleman of the United States of America, Matt. It is an excellent point. And it's also worth pointing out, it wasn't just Josh Shapiro that wasn't chosen. There were a number of other governors who were on this list, including senators as well, like Mark Kelly of Arizona. Everybody was looking to those representing actual battleground states, Matt. That is not what she went with here. Safely blue. Minnesota hasn't gone for a Republican since 1972. Is there a risk that that calculus actually backfires, that you should have had someone who could bring with him actual electoral votes that you wouldn't have had otherwise?
No, that doesn't work anymore. No vice presidential nominee has delivered their state for the ticket since LBJ did it in 1960. He delivered Texas. Since then, no one's done it. I mean, sometimes the ticket wins the VP's state. I mean, Bush won Wyoming, but it's not because Dick Cheney was on the ticket. That is just not a way that anyone who's really intimate with this process makes their calculus. The vice presidential pick probably will have limited impact. Trump was right about that the other day. But to the extent it has impact, it's really a feeling that voters will get about who Harris is and how they feel about her. That is what Walz's job is to do, is to create an image of her. And I think that kind of friendly, avuncular, future-oriented, optimistic feel is what they're going for. And I think they picked the right guy in that regard.
Will we see a vice presidential debate?
I hope so. I think Walz against Vance would be fantastic. Now, Vance is a smart guy. I'm sure he's an accomplished debater. But Walz has shown, I think the reason that he shot up the charts in the VP race initially was because he goes on cable television and he just has this incredibly appealing presence. And the things that he says and does are really compelling. And as you noted at the top, he kind of coined the idea that these guys are weird. And I really like the matchup of Walz versus Vance in a debate.
So we'll see if we get that one. We'll still see if we get Donald Trump and Kamala Harris sharing a stage. She, of course, agreed to appear in the debate that Donald Trump initially agreed to on September 10th on ABC. He now wants to debate on Fox on September 4th. Matt, if you were the Harris campaign, or if you were advising them, should they go ahead and show up and do that debate on Fox? What is the strategy that you would suggest here?
You know, I don't know what they're going to do, but I hope they do it. I mean, she would dismantle Donald Trump. The thing that Kamala Harris is best at is standing up and prosecuting the case against a bad guy. I mean, that's who she is. She's a prosecutor. She's very good at it. We saw her do it on the Senate Judiciary Committee. And Trump, as we all know, just lies his way and bullies his way through these debates. As long as she could get a word in edgewise, and if they turn off the microphones the way they did in the Biden debate, she could, I think she would have her way with Donald Trump. So I hope she does it on Fox, on ABC, anywhere the two can meet.